Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at 4:09 p.m. Eastern Time with Miss Kathy Barnett. And we just figured out all of our technical difficulties. If it's not me, it's you. And if it's not you, it's me. It's never understand how to get Zoom to work. And people might think that's my fault. After 1,100 episodes, I tend to think it's Zoom's fault and not mine. But that just might be me blaming everyone else. Miss Barnett, please introduce yourself. And thank you for doing my show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's always a tricky one when someone asks you to introduce yourself. Like, what do you do? Do I pull out my resume and just
Yeah,
start
just start.
going
Who
down
cares?
the
Just make
list?
something up. I wouldn't even know. You could technically just lie and be like, I head up NASA. I
No,
invented the
never lie.
microchip. Okay.
Never lie. Especially for us right now. If I was a Democrat, that may be something different. I can lie, get away with it. No one would
Oh, you'd be
care. But
applauded.
a conservative, yes. And so, we try to be as clear and concise as possible. Most of your audience may know me. I ran last year against Dr. Oz in the
Hmm.
state of Pennsylvania for the US Senate seat. We almost won until our own side, quote unquote, conservatives came out, started lying on me and the campaign and confused a lot of people. But that's the latest thing. And now I am the national grassroots director for Vivek Ramaswamy presidential campaign. So I'm a little bit of everywhere, traveling to different states and trying to present people with an authentic choice.
So to pitch Vivek, because he's only a couple years older than me, right? I'm 32. How old is he?
He's 37.
Yeah, no, he's light years ahead of me. I'm doing a podcast. He's running for president. I need to get my shit together. But so to pitch it then, how would you propose him compared to, because as you said, it's not the other side that you're fighting against. It's you get torpedoed by the people on your own quote unquote side, right? They'll kind of stab you in the back at the last second.
Yeah. Well, that is the mode of operation as of late, is that Republicans are spending a tremendous amount of time trying to torpedo other Republicans, right? As if we don't have enough to fight with the Democrats, all the foolish things that they're proposing and how they have fundamentally changed our country. But as if that wasn't enough, we have to always keep our eyes on our own side. And it's a very disturbing thing, even as I travel across the nation and jumping into different states and just watching. It's not just in your state or my state, it's a little bit of everywhere where we have a tremendous amount of infighting within the Republican Party. But if I had to pitch Vivek, this isn't a referendum against any person.
Yeah.
One of the things Vivek says often is that forget about the who, right? We're going to have to pick the who eventually. We're going to have to pick the who come next year in January. Right now, it really should be about the what and the why. What do we believe and why do we believe it, right? It's really hard to pick a who when we don't even know who we are as a nation any longer. You ask most people your age, my age, anything in between, what does it mean to be an American? You will get a deer in headlights look, because we've forgotten, because any and everything flies for what it means to be an American at this point. And so truly, especially in the Republican Party, one of the things I've noticed is that we get real hung up on the who. We find our person, we run into our corners and we start fighting each other like Bloods and Crips, right? Like, this is my who. Who's your who? And we lose. I used to say we are about to lose our country. I actually believe we've lost many aspects of our nation right now. And so we're in a very desperate position to try to fight and win portions of our nation back inch by inch by inch. And so let's get over the who right now. We're going to have to figure that out eventually. Right now, these people who are standing up saying they want to represent us, we should hold their feet to the fire and figure out what is their agenda. What do they believe and why do they believe it? I think that if we can get the Republican Party to begin to focus on that and not so much the who, I think we'll be light years ahead of ourselves to actually pick a sustainable person who's able to get not just through the primary, but also through the general election.
It does seem almost comically. It would be comical if it wasn't so sad. But we're at
Yeah.
a point where it's You almost just need someone who's not hell-bent on the engineered collapse of the country, right? I mean, you don't even have to pitch that hard. You just have to not sell off the strategic oil reserve, not print more money, not ship more weapons, and not censor and not open up the borders. I mean, at a certain point, it almost seems like it's like a softball. It's like a softball hit, right?
It should be.
Yeah.
It should be pretty simple, right? But you hit on a really, critical point, and it's something that I made throughout my senatorial run last year, and it's something that I continue. I saw it as I was traveling across the state of Pennsylvania, and I continue to see it now that I'm traveling across the nation. We used to think that it is us against them, as Democrats against Republicans. I and then towards the end of my race last year, I started saying it's us and then those who sit high and look low, right? We call them the uniparty most times
Mhm.
on our side of the aisle. But now, I've heard Vivek say it many times, and I believe it. It is those who love this country versus those who hate this country.
Mhm.
And I believe that that is the clear divide, and who would have ever thought? Now, the good news is that, like Vivek, myself, I too believe that there are more of us than them.
Sure.
I think what they have is they get magnified by the media, and they own or they have control of most of the outlets or platforms, whether we're talking about schools or, government, media, corporations. And so it sounds like it's more of them than us. But in actuality, as someone who was on the ground 1,500 miles every single week when I ran for the Senate race, so that means I was in front of a lot of people, a lot of our voters. It's more of us, but the other side just tends to get magnified.
Well, it's one of my favorite memes, and it's if the situation was hopeless, the propaganda wouldn't be necessary.
Ooh,
Isn't that
that's
good?
good.
That always cheers me up. There's no need to amplify a message if you're not really running. If you're not really, running the show, then you wouldn't need a lie like that. You wouldn't need a, censor. You wouldn't need to put those little YouTube labels on this has been debunked as misinformation. You wouldn't need to do
Mhm.
that if you were actually the super majority. Um, is there is there well, clearly there's an advantage, but how much do you think it's gonna, I guess, shape the next election, and that there are now parallels to something like YouTube, if there's a Rumble, or if you have, a Twitter that is now relatively neutral. Is that gonna play a major role in, their inability to just, you know, when all the states stop counting at 5 AM and, the votes start going in the opposite direction and you ban everyone from misinformation for questioning that? Is that gonna play a major role?
Yeah, I read not too long ago that 80% of our the mode of which we communicate is on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if 80% is the number or not, but clearly it feels to me that a tremendous amount of the tool that we use to communicate with one another, it happens across social media. So can you imagine if we have parallel mediums that allow people to communicate and to speak to one another? I mean, like, that's a good thing, right? It's only the left or those who hate this country and want to destroy this country who's so hell bent on controlling what we can say and how that message is relayed to other people. But clearly, I think our nation over the past 200 plus years has proven that when you allow people the ability to communicate and to debate, to reasonably debate with one another, that's a good thing for our country. It's not bad. It allows us to be able to vet out bad ideas, crazy ideas, fringe ideas, and actually get somewhere to the truth. If nothing else, I think these past, 2 to 3 years of COVID and the restrictions and the power play by the other side has proven that if we allow people to have open debate and conversation, we can get closer to the truth faster.
And that's the thing, is the truth has no alliance or cognitive bias. Truth just is. It's just the thing that, it's the needle in the center of the haystack. And if you have nothing to hide, then you're just gonna take the flamethrower to the haystack and you'll find the metal needle at the center. It doesn't Humans have always been able to do that. And whenever you try to control, never once, and if I'm wrong, then, and I'm wrong. But you might be able to challenge me on this. once in human history, I mean, truly just once in human history, has it ever been the good luck to censor or to control a narrative? I mean, what are the things we think about? Oh, they said the earth is round. Oh, yeah, no, we killed that guy. Oh, he said that we revolve around the sun. No, we burned him at the stake. At what point has anyone ever gone, thank God for government censorship? Has there ever been one instance in human history?
Yeah. Well, listen, this time is different. If you ask the left, this time is different because they're in charge. And because they're in charge, everything is going to, change. It kind of reminds me of that image, the news clip I saw, Pete Buttigieg taking the bike off the back of his truck and putting his helmet on and then paddling it into the middle of reporters to prove that, look, I'm being green, I'm out here exercising. But in fact, he drove there with the bike on the back of the truck, right? Like that's controlling the narrative
Sure.
and it's fake. There's nothing authentic about it. It doesn't reflect how people actually live their lives. We're not riding our little bikes to work. The overwhelming majority of us, we're driving, right? But it serves their ability to try to control not just the narrative, but people to pull a Pete Buttigieg, drive up in your gas guzzling vehicle and then take the bike off, put your helmet on, and then paddle in the middle of reporters who are also glad to continue to push this false narrative that this is what hip people do. They ride their bikes to work. And whether that is what hip people do or not isn't the point. The point is it doesn't reflect the overwhelming majority of Americans. And so, no, I don't believe that it has ever served the majority's the best interest to have people controlling the narrative and specifically government controlling the narrative. What did Ronald Reagan say? I think it's the 9 most dangerous
Unless
words
from
is
here
I'm
from the
from the
government and I'm
government and
here to
I'm here
help.
to help. I don't know, is that 9 words?
Yeah,
But nonetheless, the point is taken.
yeah. No, and it's just again, it's just regardless, even if it represents the majority of Americans or not, there's just a level of dishonesty there. And
Exactly.
ultimately it comes down to, I mean, you cannot know, no one can say with a straight face that the current administration doesn't have a deep disdain for everything that is America. I mean, you don't come out 3 days after a transitioning woman or man or whatever the hell you want to call it, a monster shoots 3 kids and 3 adults,
Yeah.
and then say trans
Talking
people are
about an
under
ice
attack.
cream cone, right?
Yeah, or that. No, he's
Talking
brain
about an
dead.
ice cream cone. I mean, like, how evil? How evil is that, right?
Well,
And then not, and he didn't just do it once. He did it a couple of times. I think he had a couple of press conferences around that, and both times, the first time he came out talking about, I like eating ice cream cones, and then the second time he came out talking about, I'm here I'm Jill Biden's husband, right? I mean, at a very serious time. And then you see the narrative pivot very quickly to if you say anything about the mentally ill woman who thinks she's a man who shot up 3 children and 3 adults, if you clarify that point and you put a spotlight on it and say there's something wrong here, then you're the bigot. You're the racist, right? You're the evil person to be expunged from our nation. This is, some very dark times and some very real very dark times we're living in. These are very serious times.
there is there's almost a peace in surrender in that whatever's gonna I was a biology major in college, and sometimes you would just go into an OChem test and like a peace would just come over you. You'd go, I have no idea what this information is. I'm gonna try to do well, but you know what? If I fail it, I fail it. If I have to retake, and there's just you're just walking to your death, and you're like, there's a peace in there. There is something in that knowing that you can only shed light on evil so much before you go, if the vast majority of people are good people, just intrinsically good humans, then good will prevail. If when you have them come out 3 days or 2 days after shooting and say trans people are historically under attack, that's I mean, that's evil. That's pure hatred.
And what do you do with that? I don't, I would take the opposite stance instead of surrender and allow the peace of that to just
Sure.
over me, I'm a fighter.
No, no,
I'm ready to fight, and I know you are as well. But I mean, I just want to be really clear. Now is not the time to just say, because I do hear a lot of people talk about, breaking apart our nation, having a divorce in the nation. Can you imagine the tragedy of that? Because I think these leftists would invite China over immediately, day two, right? So we succeed in day one, day two, they will have China coming in, boots on the ground, and then there we are dealing with that. But I believe now is the time to fight like the Dickens, fight like, I mean, like there is something to be said. Remember when I said earlier that I think I used to say we are about to lose our country, and now I say we have lost certain aspects, very important aspects of our country. I think coming to that realization, I think it brings clarity to the times that we're in right now, because when you're drowning, it is at that point you start fighting for your life. You start swinging, you start, wailing your arms around, you do whatever you need to do to survive. And I think that that's where we are as a nation. And I am hopeful and prayerful that more Americans who love this nation and understand what it is we're about to lose get to that point of desperation. When you have young girls cutting off healthy body parts, and those in power applauding that evil and foolishness, that's a problem. When you have young boys castrating themselves, that's a problem, right? And then if you say something about it, they want to demonize or marginalize you. They want to expunge you from polite society. That's a problem. And I believe it's a problem so much so that we need to become very desperate as a nation to begin to fight for those things.
yeah, but to clarify for myself, when I meant peace and surrender, I meant more of a you're walking into a battle and you know you're about to fight to the death, and that's where the peace comes. And
Yes.
you go, hey man, this is right. Because even growing up, right, 16, 18, 20, it's kind of easy to go, politics, you're in college, you're worried about dating or going to the
Yeah.
bar. But I mean, we are at a point where it's no longer like these luxury issues of I think tax should be this or I think there should be a new bridge here. I mean, it's coming to the front door. It's chop your genitals off to be stunning and brave, or you're a
Oh.
bigot. Like I mean,
Mm.
I mean,
God forbid. That is just evil. It
it's
just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart when I think about how we have just, we're no longer protecting some of the most vulnerable people. I don't know if you saw the Dalai Lama come out apologizing
yeah, like
for
kissing that
something really
kid's
grotesque.
tongue.
Like, I mean, I can't even, I mean, every time I think about what he's apologizing for, my stomach turns, right?
It's
Our children are just vulnerable right now, where they should be safe in schools, where they should be safe, in front of religious leaders. They're not so much. And, or even feeling safe with their doctors, right? Or even feeling safe with with their psychologists or psychiatrists. They're not. They're being preyed upon. And that, I mean, that's a very dangerous, slippery slope that we find ourselves on in this country.
well, right. There's the sin or the crime of commission, which is doing something, and then there's the sin or the crime of omission, which is knowingly doing nothing. And I'm 32. I can do whatever I want. If I want to go get a face tattoo, I can do that. If I want to transition, I can do that. Then those are my mistakes or whatever to make, right? I'm an adult. And
Yeah, yeah,
that's fine. And if one of your close friends is doing something crazy, you might talk to them, be like, hey, bro, what's going on here, man? But for the most part, you see an adult doing something, you go, that's they're here on Earth. They have their own free will by God,
yeah.
the universe, whatever you want to call it. That's fine. But there is something going after children, or even me. I don't have children. I'm not married. But even me, there's like a deep primitive your DNA is almost beckoning, going, this isn't it's like when you see like the nerdy kid getting picked on in school and you
Mm.
know that it's not the
Something wrong.
popular opinion, but you go up and you go, hey, 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 knock it off. There something evil's going on. And it's on all of our shoulders if we just watch the perversion of innocence unfold in front of us. There's no forgiveness for that. And that is on all of us. And even if you don't want to be involved and I'm not interested in politics, hey man, they're coming after kids. And if you're not willing to stand up for that, then you don't deserve anything.
I mean, kind of like what you said earlier, that they are coming through our front door, whoever that they
Sure.
are is, right? They are coming through our front door. They're not, they're not tolerant. They're not kind if you disagree with them. They look at someone like me who's clearly a Black woman and then tell me you're not Black because you're not having Black thoughts. You're
Well,
not
what is the
thinking
definition of a
like a
woman,
Black
Kathy?
person.
You bigot. What is the definition of a woman?
Okay, exactly. I love it because I am a woman. I am not confused, and I do not go around pretending I'm confused. I do not allow myself to play mental gymnastics with my mind to contort myself so that others can feel comfortable while I'm lying to my own self, right? And when I used to have these conversations with people all the time before it became truly mainstream of just, people like you and I, we can clearly, like we can pretend to be polite and and be nice to people, and if a man wants us to call him a her, then we can play along and pretend and
Sure.
and be polite, you know. But I used to say to people, you and I as adults, we can play that game. But what about, and this is probably 10 years ago, again, before this became mainstream, I used to say, but what about our young children, right?
Mm.
We're teaching them at a very early age that you cannot trust yourself, that you cannot trust your eyes. Your eyes and everything about you is telling you that when you look at me, you're clearly looking at a woman, but I'm going to teach you that you can't trust yourself. You can't trust your own eyes, right? You have to wait until I tell you who I am. And then I'm going to force you to go against everything that is inside of you to play along with my game because it makes me feel better, right? Regardless of of how it makes you feel, shut up, sit down. You're a bigot and just do as I tell you to do. Like that's essentially what they're saying. And I said, now imagine taking those little minds and teaching them on a daily basis, you can't trust yourself. You can't trust yourself. You can't trust yourself. Wait until someone tells you what to think. Wait, even on some of the most basic thing, like you're a boy and this is a girl, right? Even on the basic thing. I said, now imagine when those little children grow up and become your next senator,
Mm-hmm.
your next representative, your banker, your accountant, your doctor, and now they can no longer trust themselves, but instead they have to wait until someone tells them what to think or how to feel. Now this again, I mean, I'm ahead of my times. I was saying this when it wasn't popular then. I'm saying it today, but I'm saying it with even more fervor because now it's not in theory any longer.
Mm-hmm.
We're literally teaching our children that they can be cats and dogs if they so desire. They're walking into classrooms saying meow, and we're forcing teachers and other students to play along with those games because somehow, if I affirm that stupidity or that mental illness, then I'm going to help them in the future. We're not. We're not. We're not helping them. We're hurting them. And not just hurting them in individuals, we're hurting the larger society as well, that is predicated on just knowing some basic things like Kathy Barnette is a woman, and not because she feels like a woman, but because she actually is a woman, right? And so we need to get back. We need to begin to be bold. I mean, who would have ever thought me saying I'm a woman would be me being bold and courageous? But we need to do that. We need to find our back, our spine, get our head out of the sand and recognize that they're not knocking on your door any longer. They are literally passing laws that will allow them to be able to take your children away from you if you don't want to play along, or if you want to have a conversation with your child and really dig deep and understand root causes of some of the mental illnesses that's going on in our country today.
And it shouldn't be a bold or risque take to say that there are two people on this podcast. One of them is a black woman, the other is a white man. But that's a controversial, right? I'd almost have to, in polite society, you'd almost have to have like everyone's consent to say that. But that is absurd.
Well, yeah, I mean, in our society, they will love for you to just focus on the fact that I'm black.
Yeah.
I'm a
What about the
victim.
content of your
You're
character?
white, you're white, and you're an oppressor, right?
Hmm.
Now, in today's society, that's the beginning and the end of most conversations,
Yeah.
right? Like they
The
don't want
end.
to talk about anything else about the character, about the content of our characters individually, where we've come from, what we've done to be able to build a life for ourselves. They don't want us to have any of those conversations, right? So the fact that I can walk into a room and say, no one, nothing has really been handed to me. I've had to work very, very hard to get to where I am today. And I paid attention. I kept my nose clean. I waited to be married before having children. And this is how I was able to claw my way out of dire poverty. It's not rocket science, but it does take a certain level of discipline and determination in order to do that, right? I grew up on a pig farm. I grew up in a home with no insulation, no running water, an outhouse in the back, and a well on the side. When I say we were poor, we couldn't afford the other O. We were just po. And yet, no one in that situation ever looked at me and said, Kathy, you're black, you're a woman, you're poor. All the odds are against you. I don't remember anyone looking at me as a child telling me that. Instead, I saw them waking up early, going to bed late. I saw them working hard for their family. I saw them not only provide for their family, but provide for our community. I saw that. I saw where I can come from the top of the hill, and by the time I made it down to the bottom, everyone had stopped and told my grandmother if I was a good girl or not, right? We had expectations that were placed on us to behave a certain way in society. And today it's just a free for all, right? And so, I mean, that is where we find ourselves. I mean, I grew up in very challenging circumstances, and I did not see myself as a victim then. I still do not see myself as a victim. I'm a black woman married to a black man, raising black children, and we are not victims. And we are doing very well for ourselves by the grace of God, and a tremendous amount of hard work and networking and all of those particular things that I mentioned before. Those are the lessons that we should be teaching little black girls, little white boys, and everyone in between who find themselves in a not so privileged position, but who have it within themselves to want to achieve more and do more. Get an education, learn to get a job, learn to keep a job, wait to get married before you start having children. It's not rocket science, but we have to have the courage, again, to be able to stand up and say those things.
When are you running for office again?
Right now,
I'm
I
getting
am
psyched
all
up.
about right now, I'm all about Team Vivek. I am so encouraged with him and his message and his clarity and his focus of not only pointing out the problem, because Republicans, we're real good about pointing out the problems. We can spend all day and night pointing out problems, but he goes beyond that and he actually has solutions. I have his book right here on
Mhm.
my desk, Woke Inc. I've never seen anyone with so much clarity, not just point out the problem and how we got here, but to also begin to address the solutions as well. So much so, you have some of the other contenders who are running for president and those who are likely to run for president quoting him, doing
Mm.
the things that he says that we should and should not be doing, right? I'm looking for that. I'm looking for a leader. I'm looking for someone who will say the quiet parts out loud. We saw that with Donald Trump in
Mhm.
2016. Now I believe we're seeing that once again with Vivek.
Yeah, and that's not even necessarily a Republican thing so much as it's a human thing, and I point that out all the time. It's so easy to point out what's wrong in the world.
Yeah.
That's not the hard part, man. I mean, you can look in the mirror and be like, I'm too fat. I'm not paying my bills. My apartment's dirty. It's like, congratulations. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you gotta wake up early, go to the gym, you gotta stop eating. Yeah, it's not fun. That's the hard part. But th-
Discipline.
yeah, that's the part you have to do. And to 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 pivot back to the what you said earlier, and I think it's an important thing. is as adults, we can choose to be kind to each other, right? You and I could be talking beforehand, and you could say, Tommy, I identify as a black man, and I want you to call me Kevin. And I don't have to, but you're coming on my show. We're being cordial. I could be like, sure, what? That's my choice. And I can do that, and that's fine.
Right.
When you start imposing that on a child, okay, well, that's another thing. Again, that's the perversion of innocence, which is just evil incarnate. But it goes from almost meme quality of, oh, we're saying kids are allowed to be cats and dogs now, to, well, how far does this go? To
Yeah.
what is consent? What is age? How far does that go? How
Well,
far
why
does
not?
that go? Well,
Why not?
why not? How come love can't just be love? Well, they don't identify as a young child. They identify as an old soul. Well, how far does this go until it's just call it what it is,
Why
adults
not?
raping children? That's what it will
Why
be.
not?
We're going to
Why
walk
not?
out there. 5 years ago, tell me where we are where we are now, and you'd say you're high. Well, then where are we in 2028?
Yeah. Little girls cutting off healthy breasts. That's
Yeah.
where we are. And people applauding that as courage.
Yeah. And we will be at a point where we will look back at that and say, those were the good old days when it was just
Mm.
chopping off genitals. This is where this is going. And again, it's at your front door. It's you no longer can ignore it and be like, yeah, well, it's whatever. It's not
It's those people. It's not me. It doesn't impact me. No, you're right.
it's no longer over there. It's not something like the Super Bowl where it's, did you see the halftime show? Nah, man, I don't care. Like that's okay. It's
Yeah.
here. And you can't turn a blind eye. And if
Very
you
true.
do, I'm with you, man. I wish I could stick my head in the sand. I don't want to do this. I'm 32. I started this podcast thing. I was going to have I started the podcast December 12th, 2019, the day COVID hit the United States. I had no idea what I was
Wow.
getting into. Like, I just wanted to talk to cool people. I didn't know I was going to get banned from YouTube for interviewing Dr. Malone, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine. I had no idea that was going to happen,
Mhm.
but it's here. It's in front of us. And ultimately the truth doesn't care. The truth will just be what it is. I mean, I've had on here before Dr. Patrick Moore, who co-founded Greenpeace. He has gone in so far in the opposite direction. This guy's a scientist. You first talk to him, you're like, there couldn't be more of a hippie than this guy. And he'll sit on here for 2 hours and tell you why it is nothing but a cynical money grab and a control of power to force people to use things that they don't want to use and to shut down energy production. These are all things where it's just the truth just is the truth. And anyone that wants to block it or to ban it or to belittle you for pointing it out does not have any good intentions in mind. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words. Sorry.
No, if we weren't on a podcast, I would be amening you, right? But when you do that on a podcast, it's almost
You
like
can do it.
I'm
Who
drowning you
cares?
out. I want to interrupt you,
No, who
but you're
cares? Go for
absolutely,
it.
I mean,
I don't
but
care.
you're absolutely correct. I mean, so again, this takes me back to where we started earlier when you asked me to give my elevator pitch for Vivek. And I guess as we're getting ready to
Oh,
close
you've
this
won me
out,
over. Yeah, you've won me over.
good. So let me just start. So let me close out where we
Sure.
started, right? And that is the who will come. Stop acting like little Bloods and Crips trying to fight over your person, right? Fight over this nation. Our
Hmm.
country is bigger than any individual. Our country is bigger than me, you, Trump, DeSantis. It doesn't matter. We're about to lose the greatest nation that has ever existed. And I say that full throated with some, studying some history to point to those civilization that has come and gone before us. This is the greatest nation. And there's no guarantee that our nation is going to continue on for another 200 plus years, right? It seems real ominous right now. Vivek often says, we could just be a nation in its adolescence, right? So we could just be dealing with pimples right
Sure.
now, blemishes, right? And we'll get over it and we'll continue on. But I do believe that we are skirting with some really dangerous situations right now. When you see what the very liberal George Soros backed district attorney Alvin Braggs is
Mm-hmm.
doing to Donald Trump, that should stand the hair on the back of all of our necks right now, because this is not about Donald Trump. I heard Nancy Pelosi say, "Oh, what's happening to Donald Trump proves no one is above the law." No, what this really proves is that a very elite group of people in our nation can now single people out that they don't like,
Mhm.
that they can wake up on the wrong side of the bed and say, "I just want to destroy you," right? And they have the ability to do it. Is that really who we are? Because this sounds a whole lot like Germany, Nazi Germany. This sounds a whole lot like the Communist Party of China right now. Some of the stories we hear coming out of that sounds a whole lot like Kim Jong Un. It sounds a whole lot like what goes on in those countries, right?
Mm.
But now we're watching it happening right here, and we have Republicans who have a position of power sitting around biting their nails, like, "Oh, I wonder how this is going to work out, how this going to end." It's a travesty where we find ourselves today. And so we really do need, I've always believed for some time now that our help is not going to come from the top down. Our help is going to come from the people up. That's the reason why Vivek has me on his team as the national grassroots director, is because I understand the power of the people. When people begin to wake up and figure out, and when they wake up and when they're given the necessary tools to begin to fight for themselves and their family and how they want to live their lives, that becomes a very powerful equation. And so, to that end, I'm very excited for what it is that we have in store.
And I'm more excited for when you run again. I'm psyched. I'm psyched up for you. I'm on your team now. But there's an importance of what you pointed out, and it's America in the idea, for all of its flaws, and there are many, the idea of self-rule. And not only that, but on a landmass, just tactically, separated from the rest of the world by 2 oceans. And then once you get across those oceans, 2 mountain ranges, and within those mountain ranges, millennia of resources. And then that's the place where self-governance rules. You're never getting that. That's you're playing slots and you just got, 10 you just got 10 leprechauns in a row. Like, you're not getting that. You don't win the lottery and go, "Oh, man, next time I win it." What do you mean next time you won it? You hit the
Let me
lottery.
enjoy this. Let me
Yeah,
protect this.
yeah,
Let me go get wise leaders, wise financial leaders to help me to,
yeah,
to not just spend it
yeah,
all and waste
yeah.
it.
You don't go, "Man, I'm gonna blow this 50,000,000, but when I win it again, no, 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 no. Oh, there's the girl of my dreams. Yeah, when I find the next one, huh? What?
Yeah,
No." And it's
exactly. Okay, I love that. I
yeah,
love that. So everyone, Vivek, Vivek Ramaswamy for 2024 president. He is that $50 million that you just won, that
yeah,
we just lucked up on.
yeah.
So let's not waste it. Let's not waste an opportunity to actually have. Again, we will figure out the who, but right
Mhm,
now, let's begin to force every single person who is running for president to come out as clearly as Vivek has and saying, "This is who I am.
mhm.
These are not just the problems," because it does take courage today to point out the real problems, right? So it takes courage to say that what happened in Nashville was a mentally ill person who walked into that school, into the church, and killed those people. That takes courage. And I haven't seen a whole lot of those, even on the Republican side, who are running for office, come out and say it quickly and say it with so much courage, right? Say it without waiting for a poll. Say it without waiting for,
Yeah,
the momentum to move your direction. And now you have a swarm of people around you giving you some liquid courage. But instead, say it when it's not convenient to say it. That is what we should be looking for in a leader, because I believe that is the kind of person it's going to take to sit across the table from Xi Jinping and say, "No more."
yeah.
No more taking advantage of our nation, right? I think that is the kind of person. So I think these are some of the litmus tests of watching these people who say that they want to represent our nation. What are they saying? What kind of courage are they putting forth? Are they saying things that need to be said, even when it's not convenient, even before they take polls that tell them this is where the pendulum has swung, but
Mhm.
they're standing on first principles and conviction. So allow that to be the rubrics that we use as we move over the next 9, 10 months of getting to a point where we say January of next year of 2024, as a Republican, I'm going to pull the lever for this person.
Mhm. And Yeah, don't wait until it's convenient. Understand that they hate you no matter what. So just stand your ground and say there's no appeasing them. And second of all, and a lot of people hate Donald Trump, and that's fine. That's your freedom as an adult. Understand if they can just raid the home of a billionaire ex-president, what does that mean for you? I
Okay,
don't, yeah, I mean,
exactly.
yeah, you don't have to like him.
I
Billionaire
don't want to wait.
ex-president.
I don't want to wait to find out because that's
Exactly.
exactly where this is going, right? I mean, you stick your head up and say, no, I don't want you. I don't want my, I don't know, my 10-year-old daughter being given away to a 45-year-old man. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. And then they say, you know what? We're going to now use
Mm-hmm.
we're going to weaponize the justice system to come after you because you're not doing groupthink. You're not saying
Mm-hmm.
what you should say. We've already had Ayanna Pressley say that we no longer need brown faces and black faces speaking if they don't have brown voices, something to that
What?
degree. But Vivek does a much better job in quoting her. I try not to listen to her if I don't have to. But just think about that, that if you're no longer, she doesn't want brown faces. I have a brown face. She no longer wants brown faces speaking unless they're speaking with a brown voice. So apparently I don't have a brown voice, which means I'm not a brown person or a black person any longer, according to her definition. Now, what if they get so bold to now say we're going to now weaponize the justice system to round up all of these brown faces and black faces that don't have black and brown voices because they're dangerous to the
Mm-hmm.
nation, whatever narrative they will push forward. That's where we are.
And yeah, they don't even have to go that far. They'll just say you're a white man. They don't even have to say or
A
yeah.
white straight man.
Yeah, that's me. Trust me. I know. I'm walking on thin ice being a white straight
I
man
know,
with
right? Like you
blue
got all kind
eyes.
of negatives against you right now, according to the left.
Yeah, I don't care. I take it in stride. But thank you so much for coming on. That was awesome. I'm legitimately excited. That got me psyched up. I'm ready to go. I want you to run again. I'm kind of forget Vivek. I'm kidding. You've got
No,
for him.
don't
I'm
forget
waiting for
Vivek.
you to. No, I'm kidding. I'm waiting for you to run again. That was awesome. You got it. I like it. Um, and
Thank you
then
so much for having me.
yes, ma'am. And in the description, guys, please go follow her on Twitter. And the link to your book is also in the description. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming on here. I would love to have you on again. That was
Yeah.
you're legitimately a cool person. Thank you so much for
Well,
your time.
I will agree with you on that. I am cool. So
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna let my kids listen to this when I'm done. Look, someone
Yeah.
thinks mommy's cool, but also go to Vivek2024.com and find out more about him. You can also go on Twitter, Vivek R Ramaswamy. Just put in Vivek, Vivek, and then go there and find out more about him.
Thank you so much. You're badass. You can tell your kids that in the future. Be like, look, he said I'm badass. You have it on video now.
Mama rocks.
There's your proof. Thank you so much for coming on here. You're an inspiration. You're a that was awesome. I genuinely mean that. Thank you. So
Thank you
guys,
so much.
please go follow her on Twitter. Go grab her book. Go support. Thank you so much, Kathy. Till next.